And we're live from the man cave. It's the caller here in the hostess chair. It's a pleasure to be joined by all of you guys at home. We see you in the comments. Hello, Daniel Bedingfield, a bit like Daniel Bedingfield, maybe. And I am surprisingly tall in real life. Yes, I am 6'1". But there you go. Look. I'm joined this evening by two illustrious people. HG, don't forget to take yourself off mute. That would be a good start. And Jack, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really thrilled to be here. Glad I got home from my holiday to Mexico, safe and sound, so I could do this wonderful show with you two wonderful gentlemen.
Yeah. How was Mexico?
It was fantastic. It really was fantastic. Having a daughter and or a son in the UK since 2017, most of my trips have been across the pond and therefore far more expensive than heading south of our wonderful border here and spending some time in lovely Mexico. The weather was fantastic. The company was great. The food was amazing. It was just a great trip.
I've been to Mexico twice, and boy, have I got some stories for you. But you don't want to hear about that. You want to hear about Spurs at home. HG, welcome all the way from Vienna. Das ist gut, ja?
I'm going to speak for everyone who's watching. We kind of want to hear the stories from Mexico. I don't think we really want to be talking about Spurs right now. Yeah, das ist gut. Yeah.
Das ist gut, yeah.
Yeah, your German needs a bit of work, but it's at least accurate. I'll give it that.
Yeah. That's the extent of my German. Look, we've got a lot going on. There's Dave Harris. I bet he's excited about Oasis reforming. I wasn't so happy, by the way. Waited, 6 hours to be greeted with surge pricing. So, Gallagher Brothers, stick it.
You're still going to go. You'll find a ticket. Oh, you are going.
No, I haven't got a ticket.
Oh.
No, I refuse to pay those prices. They're just daft. To be honest, to see, a cokehead banging a tambourine for an hour and a half.
Smooth sailing, John. Smooth sailing. No border problems.
Is it the first time you've been to Mexico, by the way?
It is actually. All the travel we've done. We've been to the Bahamas. We've been to Belize. We've been to a number of places, but have not gone down to Mexico. This was a trip because a good friend of ours was house sitting down there. So in a lovely town called San Miguel de Allende, which is Central Highlands. It was fantastic. I recommend it highly to anyone who wants to go.
Well, I think you'll find it's pronounced Juan Miguel, but
San, S-A-N, San Miguel. I don't speak Spanish.
That's backfired pretty badly.
No, definitely fun. Look, firstly, I want to thank someone. JP, thank you so much for putting a picture of my tired face on the cover. So if that hasn't scared you off joining tonight, welcome. Let us know where you're watching from and do participate. The chat is live. We will get to your comments and questions through the show. More than happy to put them to Jack and HG. Yeah, the Monopoly guy. I'm not sure what that's all about, to be honest. Daniel. Far taller, and he's probably better looking than me. But he's computer generated these days, so
Yeah, he's got more money than you do too.
Oh, I suppose we have to talk about Spurs, don't we? Right. Firstly, international break. It just boils my piss just a little bit that it comes this early in the season for a meaningless match when the Premier League is starting to get into full swing. HG, tell me I'm wrong, and this is a great break for us.
Well, you are wrong, because it's not meaningless. It's the Nations League. It's everyone's sixth favourite competition. But yeah, it's like it used to be a meaningless friendly, and I mean now it isn't without meaning, but still, I don't know. When are England playing? I think Austria are playing right now. But I don't even know really what's going on. So, yeah, we're just waiting for Spurs to restart. But it is probably a good time for Spurs to go without games because, is there a good time for Spurs to play Arsenal? I don't know. But I feel like without having the pressure might suit us.
I'm looking forward to that one. Can't wait to take the long journey down to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for that one. I think it will be an interesting fixture, but we'll have a preview on that with our very friendly Gooner nearer the time. We're here to talk tonight about predictions and Spurs so far this season, and I thought we could touch on the Europa League, or the Ropey League, as we like to call it. So we've selected our squad, haven't we? So goalkeepers, no real surprises there. Any surprises? I heard a.
Well, I mean, we were questioning whether or not Forster would go, and it came down to a choice between Forster and Spence, and I guess we'll get into that. But I actually didn't think that's what I thought. We'd take the kids as our backups.
Jed Spence, HG. Why has Jed been excluded? Here is the outfield players. No Jed Spence. I suppose that's the only real headline, and unless you count Sergio Reguilon as a squad member.
No, I mean, obviously Spurs don't. I think Ange has come out. I mean, I don't think he said it word for word, but he basically made it clear that Reguilon won't be named in any squad and that he needs to go. There aren't too many places that he can go right now. But yeah, like, of all our English players that are over 21 and all those various rules that UEFA has, we always knew that one of them wasn't going to go. And when you looked at the players that that fit that category, it did seem that really Forster, as important as he is as being second choice, was probably the least important of all the others, because we've got a small squad and we expect the outfield players to get minutes. So I don't think Forster's really going to play those games. Maybe he will, but I assumed that, I think like most of us, that maybe the minutes would go somewhere else, or Vicario would play every game. But it's a weird decision because we don't have many defenders as it is. And then for Spence to be the one that misses out when you'd expect him to play every game in some form, right? Like if someone needs a bit of a rest, then Spence is going to be one of those that might get called up. There are other players that maybe more important ones, like you saw with Chelsea, like they kept Cole Palmer out of their European squad because it would have meant he doesn't have to worry about playing.
Well, it's Conference League though, a little bit of a less competitive competition.
Yeah, no, it definitely is, but still, that's the idea. Like, what's your focus? If our focus is on winning the competition, then I don't think we've picked the right squad. If our focus is on resting players, then we clearly haven't picked the right squad. It doesn't seem to make too much sense, but I guess in Ange's eyes, Spence is the least valuable player that could go.
I mean, Jack, why are we taking 4 keepers?
Because he made the decision that he wants Forster and doesn't trust Austin and Whiteman is the only conclusion I can make, because you have to have those two in the squad just so you don't have to drop more people. Because again, you have to have 8 total homegrown and club trained players. And if you don't have those numbers, you have to reduce the others' positions similarly. So we only had 2 club trained, which means we had to drop 2 people out of the squad. If you're going to keep Forster, that means somebody has to lose out. And in this case, it's Spence. And for me, I mean, I'm no expert on either Whiteman or Austin. I saw Austin play in the preseason. He had some nice moments, but it's preseason. So I'm just surprised that we took him, because I would have thought that someone who could play left or right back against Karabag or any of those other teams would have made a lot more sense than Forster starting those games, let alone sitting on the bench. So, I mean, Ange has got his reasons, and I'm sure they're very sound. I can't imagine this was just some sort of off-the-cuff decision, and I hope that he explained it to Spence that I assume it means that Spence is still in his plans. I can't imagine something's changed unless something happened in training that's been not reported. I just figured that we would go with the 3 goalkeepers, because again, this is the roster only through the group stage or league stage or whatever it's called. And so you could always reformulate in December or January, whenever that process stops, to reset the squad. So I was really surprised, just because we don't have a lot of cover at fullback. I mean, that just means that Archie Gray is probably the right back rotation, and Ben Davies or Mickey Van de Ven is left back when Udogie isn't going to play or doesn't want to play, can't play, or whatever. So it just puts more minutes early in the season on a squad that's historically had injury problems. And even if you don't have injury play problems where you were before, if you come to Spurs, you will. So it does seem a little bit odd to me, but I it's hard to question someone who does this professionally and is looking at it every single day with lots of help. But it just does seem really odd.
Yeah, and like I thought, to be fair, when I realised that Spurs weren't going to go and make all the signings that I wanted them to, because I thought we needed a couple more at least, that it meant that the youth players would get a chance, and players like Abbott and Donnelly and Devine and all of those that could have been named on the List B group, that they would be on that List B group and would become part of a larger squad. And that made, I was like, okay with that. Like, I want to see, you want to see those players get minutes. In theory, some of these games are slightly easier, so why not? But then they get sent on loan, and which again, it's not bad for their development. It's not bad for them, but it might be bad for Spurs. And I think that's the part that is somewhat frustrating, is that, again, we find ourselves worrying about something that we didn't need to worry about. But fans want to do well in these tournaments. I don't want to be sitting here in 5-6 weeks as we go to play whoever we've got on. Go to Hungary, and suddenly it's like, oh well, we have to play basically our first team because there's no one else, or like the ones that played the previous Saturday have to play again because there's no one else. Like our defensive players in the academy don't seem to have the same amount of potential, really. I mean, you've got Dorrington, who I guess is still around, but you know what I mean? Like, we don't have a left back really coming through, and even the right back changes game on game. It just feels, it feels like it's not been done properly. Like, the whole point of having a squad is that you're trying to prepare for as many eventualities as you can, and if anything, it feels like we're not that bothered.
No, I mean, which leads me to my next point, and you can let me know what you think about this in the chat. So the Europa League winners, the bookies, have us down as the 9-2 favourites. Are they absolutely mad, Jack, given how trophy shy we are?
Well, of course. I mean,
it's a slightly leading question.
I mean, on paper, of course, we would be one of the favorites, but to have us as the favorites now again, and
let me run you down the favorites, right? So Spurs 9-2, Man United 5-1, Roma 8-1. Those are the first three.
Yeah. And
I think an outside bet Ajax at 25-1.
I think it's reasonable to list Spurs from a neutral perspective of betting. You're trying to get as many bets on one side as the other, and that line may move a little bit. Those odds may change, but I would think that when there's no drop down from the Champions League, it clearly favors the big clubs that are in there who have more experience and deeper and more talented squads. And so the idea that somebody other than Spurs, Roma, Man United are going to win this competition, it would be quite an upset because the odds get much longer after that. But we all know we're going to run into some team. We're going to be playing. I don't know. I don't have the list of
Karabag.
I'm not worried about that. I mean, I'm talking about once you get into the knockout phase.
Bilbao.
Bilbao. Yeah, we'll go to Spain and lose to someone we shouldn't lose. We'll go. It's just Hoffenheim will get knocked out. Something will happen that we won't get through and win a trophy on this is my expectation. That's the only expectation any rational Spurs fan can have.
There is a thing, though. There is a thing, which is this is obviously the first year in many where Champions League teams won't drop down into the Europa League. So therefore, the bigger teams now, in theory, have got a much better chance of winning it. The bigger teams in the Europa League have got a much better chance of winning it than they would have had in yesteryear. But there's some good teams in it.
Galatasaray with Osimhen is just as capable of winning this as anybody.
Well, Frankfurt are in it, aren't they, HG?
They are, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They're a decent side, Lyon are in it.
Yeah.
There's
plenty of teams that can beat Spurs in this competition. That's my point.
And I think John raises a good point there. Atalanta upset the apple cart last year when it seemed over because another pool won it. So you just don't know.
So John is saying that Spurs are Atalanta, and we're going to knock out the teams that we probably think would win it, such as Athletic Bilbao or
Man United.
Roma or whatever. And this is it. Like with Spurs, Man United, have this annoying tendency to win trophies, despite the fact that we all know they're rubbish, but they perform on the day, and that's competitions for you. Like they were lucky to get past Coventry in the semi-final of the FA Cup, and then they go and beat Man City in the final. It's you
Very
never know,
annoying.
but no Spurs fan is sitting here thinking we're definitely on the semi-finals at least. Because when was the last time we made it? When was the last time we made a semi-final in Europe? Is it when we won the UEFA back in '84? I think it might be. It's a long time.
Well,
since
we won a semi-final when we went to the
What am I talking about? We got to the final of Champions League. Oh,
you are tired. You are tired.
You know what? Like I remember doing a show with with the brothers, right? And they asked a question about like Spurs in Europe, and we all forgot. All four of us forgot Ajax, which is mental since it's like the high point
best
of
game
Spurs
of our lives.
Yeah, the high point in Spurs in like the last 15, 20 years. So yeah, even that didn't feel real. I mean, this is it. Like, I don't know. I don't expect much from Spurs, but that's okay. That's normal. But they're favourites because people just want us to win, and they're like, oh, I'll put money on it, and maybe I'll manifest it somehow that will happen. But yeah, and also bookies are like, great, put money on other people. We don't really bookies win regardless.
And put some money on it.
Absolutely,
because I'll do it.
You will.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, not at 9-2. You won't. Wait a little bit. Wait until we've lost a couple of group games and we're down at like 18s.
There you go.
And then put your money on.
What will be the low point of this European campaign, HG and Jack? There's a prediction for you that wasn't in the run sheet.
Wasn't in the run sheet. Yeah. Now I got to look at the fixtures.
The low point.
Let's find the away game that is. All right. Let's see here. Let's come back.
You can play along in the chat, guys.
Yeah, please, everyone help us out.
What's going to be the low point of the Europa League this season?
He's going off script.
I think losing the first game would be pretty low because we're at home against the team from none of us know anything about Karabakh really.
Yeah, that would be the low.
But because Elfsborg away would have been one that we would think, but we got them at home, and you think
game in Hungary.
Yeah, I mean this is it. That's what game number 2. So it's still full. Game of 3.
You're going to that, by the way, H2. You're going to go to the Hungary one.
No comment.
That's a yes. You're mugging us all off with a press pass again, aren't you?
If I could, I would. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the low point will get a nice easy draw in the quarterfinals, and then we'll screw that up. That's what Spurs do. That's what I would expect.
The high point, though, what's going to be the high point?
Beating Karabakh at home 4-0. It's not going to get any better than that. And I am potentially that will be my high point because if we follow through with our threat, me and Leon will be there at the stadium together to watch a match together, which would be amazing because I don't think Leon's been to a game in about.
Don't announce his name just in case.
More than a dozen years. More than a dozen years since he's been to a match.
There you go. Oh dear. This Paul, it's about right. Yeah, these people, he sounds
Is that part-time forward one of ours?
Wait, while playing left back, let's make sure.
God,
no. It's really easy to be negative about it, which is why we're doing it.
It's self-depreciating humor,
but
isn't it?
Exactly. But this is it with Spurs. We all know that we can. But none of us really think we will, and that's the beauty of being a Spurs fan. So it'll be interesting. I like midweek games. I want to see more of those. I want to see
under the lights.
Exactly, under the lights. I mean, wherever. The fact that Spurs are playing just 3 hours from here, I am kind of excited. I mean, it's only 4 weeks away. So
special good evening to King Hoddle, who when I popped over to see what Chris Callan was doing tonight was very active in the chat. How dare you moonlight on us, Mr. Hoddle? Welcome to the show. Look, I think it's safe to say that. Here's a question for you: Carabao Cup. Do you think we will put a strong side out at Coventry? Because I've been chatting to a couple of Coventry fans today. I'm trying to get a ticket. Should we be excited about the Carabao? Because I think Coventry are probably going to put a full strength side out. They're not a bad championship team, at all. You know, they did all right last season. Playoff team for Mark Robbins, manager, very capable tactician. I do worry about that. Are you bothered about the Carabao, Jack? I'll come to you in a second. HG, same question.
Yeah, I'm bothered about it because, again, there's only so many trophies available every season, and I want Spurs to win one of them before I die. And so every opportunity to win one, I want them to go full strength. We were all annoyed at the Fulham match last year. It might have served a larger purpose in squad development, but it certainly didn't feel good and it wasn't fun to watch. So the question of whether we take a full strength team, I mean, part of it will depend on if there are any injuries that are picked up during the international break and then at the Arsenal game. But I expect some level of rotation. That's the type of game where you would think if Richie were healthy, he'd play. But since Richie, unless we can hypnotize him and convince him he's playing for Everton, I don't know if he's going to be healthy again. But that's where you do some rotation. You could see that's where you might get Spence to play, right back, for crying out loud. And you might, if we had a left back as a backup, you'd put that person in there too. You'd bring Radu in maybe to play, Archie Gray. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some rotation. You got a home match against Brentford on the weekend. So you don't have any travel, so that helps a little bit. But I would expect a reasonably strong squad because I would like them to take it seriously because it's an opportunity to win something, even though we won't.
And you would qualify for the Conference League next season, which would be cracking. It's very rarely Dave Harris talks sense, but he's right on this one. Jose and Pep get it. They want a trophy to build early momentum. HG, how do you see us going in the League Cup? Balls out or out?
No, look, Andrew will make changes. I don't think he's going to view it any different to how he viewed Fulham. That doesn't mean he shouldn't. I just think that in his eyes, it's a chance to play the players that haven't played that much so far this season. That would be Bergvall, that will be Gray, that will be Davies, that will be Richarlison if he's fit. Like, it will be those players that are kind of on the fringes. Like, weirdly enough, we've seen a number of changes already this season because we've had a couple of injuries and we've made a few, we went more attacking at home against Everton. So we've almost rotated the squad, but because we're still trying to find our best 11. And maybe that's what we'll continue to do. But given the fact that the squad is so small, like we may be forced to go strong. The question is, how many do you take out? I don't personally want to see more than 4 changed, but a lot of us would like to see the defenders change because they're the ones we really want to keep, keep fresh and keep ready. And maybe we won't be able to do that. So yeah, it's odd. But I do think that certainly 6. If we're talking outfield players, I would expect to see 6 regular starters start that game.
Okay.
This is an interesting one. I can think of 2. What's the third?
So he did it with Basel,
Fiorentina,
and he did it with Fiorentina, and I guess he did it with Liverpool because they beat us in the final.
Liverpool,
yeah. Liverpool. Well, that's with the 2. I was thinking Fiorentina and Liverpool. I didn't think about that.
Basel was the first one.
Yeah, okay.
That is the level of knowledge that you get on a panel on the Lads' Tottenham show, right? So can you please, if you're watching this, which 42 of you are already, welcome. We would really appreciate it if you stop what you're doing and hit the like button. Thank you very much. Liverpool. I hate them. Let's talk about different things. Switching gears, Alfie Devine has gone to Westeros to be with Frodo Baggins and Game of Thrones and all of that stuff. They've got another player, haven't they, as well, HG Office?
Well, they've got Vuskovic, who's Spurs, but not really yet, but will be at some point. He's there too. I like the kit, I have to say. I think the yellow and blue is pretty cool. But maybe it means it's more likely that Spurs fans will follow this club over the season because Vuskovic tends to post quite a few things, or you see, I've seen highlights doing the rounds on Twitter of their games, and they won I think 3 of their first 5 and were towards the top of the league. So yeah, hopefully Devine gets minutes. I'm happy he's going to play. because he wouldn't do for Spurs, but I still wish he was at Spurs because you just never know. Especially as like he would have been on the list B players, so he would be available for Europe. And in Europe, you can name, I think, 12 subs.
Like again, there's no way he's getting anywhere near the first team, is there? So
he wouldn't start. But I mean, that's the whole point. The whole point of these Europa games is to give players rest. Like, I don't want to be playing 1-1 in Hungary after an hour and then throwing on our best players in an attempt to win the game. Like, what you want is to have people like Devine who can play those minutes, if needed. I think that's the thing with Spurs, is that for a long time we didn't think about the development of our academy players. Not really. We just kind of said, if you're a bit miserable, here you go, off to Yeovil, play there for a month, right? And now it feels like we're so intent on trying to develop these players that they might at some point be useful, but we don't have the players anyway. Like we like playing 90 minutes every week versus I don't know. It's a weird place that we've put ourselves, and it doesn't need to be that way.
I mean, you need a squad the size of Chelsea's to loan everyone out like that, don't you? Really? And that's them the facts, I suppose. Look, Ange has taken a calculated risk, in my opinion, in not letting play. We did it last season, and we left ourselves short, didn't we? We sold Sanchez, wasn't it? Lastminute.com. Didn't replace him. We loaned out a lot of players last season. Didn't give ourselves adequate cover. Guess what? Shit at the fan after Chelsea, and it was a disastrous few weeks. Now, there's been a lot more from what I've seen on social media questioning Ange lately than at any other point since he's been at the club. Right, okay. So I'm going to take a beer break in a minute. I'm leaving you two with a question, which, by the way, thanks for doing this, Jack. That's exactly the question I was going to bring up.
I'm right there for you.
My man. If, heaven forbid, we lose to Arsenal and follow up with a loss to Coventry, then does Ange need to go? Now, I'll give you my take before I vacate. You've got to give this rebuild time. I question Ange's tactics with these players. I question his signings, because I think anyone spending £50 million on Brennan Johnson must be 2 pennies short of a pound. But you've got to surely, after spending all that money and playing a new style, a new system, you've got to give it time to percolate. You've got to give it time. Arsenal gave Arteta time. They're reaping the rewards. But a lot of our fan base are saying this, so it's only right we debate it. And you have your say in the chat, and these guys are going to go through your comments whilst I pour myself a lovely pint of finest beer. Jack, go.
All right. So you led me into it. There's a famous NFL football coach here, Bill Parcells, most famously of the Giants, who is reportedly has said many times, if you keep listening to the fans, eventually you'll be sitting with them. And that is my feeling, is all the noise and all the fans. And it's just, we all know that the percentage of fans that participate in social media and online forums is a minority, but they are clearly frustrated as a group. I can sense it. You can see the frustration. You see everyone questioning the tactics. The goal against that we gave up against Newcastle to lose the match is set people into overdrive, because they say that as evidence of that nothing has gotten better. And for me, I think the eye test as well as the statistics absolutely show that this team is better. They played Newcastle off the pitch for 75, 80 minutes of the match. And it is frustrating when what looks like clear errors, which I don't necessarily completely assign to Romero, where he, and it's not completely him, because I still don't think our pressing triggers are coordinated. I don't think everyone is quite on the same page of how to react in certain situations. But to your point that caller made, Arteta did finish 8th. He did finish 8th and then 5th, I think, 3 years. And I remember we loved watching the Arsenal fans meltdown. We loved watching Arsenal fan TV. We loved watching them call for Arteta's head. That was great fun for us. but it was the wrong decision. And we all, I think it's pretty clear that had he not won that FA Cup, he might not have survived. Ange doesn't have that luxury unless he pulls a trophy out of, his butt this year, then he's golden, obviously. So we're not have to worry about it. But that's a long way to any sort of potential final. So for me, I think it's crazy. I think you do have to give this time. You do need a couple more windows. The current signings are what they are, but there's a young core here that if they could stay together, grow together, I think they're the makings of a very, very good team. Even if we lose Romero in the summer, that's a lot of money to reinvest in the squad. I think it's really it's just the height of impatience and immaturity to start calling for his head at this point. I just think it's crazy because I see clear evidence of a better football team playing better, a better style, a more attractive brand that I would. And the next question is, who are you going to get in? You still have the same ownership group. You still have the same issues with that in terms of what we pay in salaries and bonuses not being the same as the top three in this league. So it is what it is. And since you can't force the ownership out, just churning your coaches over and over again is just the same old thing. And I just don't think it makes sense. I like this coach. I think he's good for the club. I think his tactics will work given it time. Whether we can win a league, come on. I mean, I'm not ignorant, but it just is. I mean, I just don't think it makes any sense to be calling for his head. Let's give the guy the entire second year, see where we are, and then assess. That's my view.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like if we did lose the next two games, which would see us lose to Arsenal, see us go out of the Carabao, then obviously the screams will increase, right? Because I think the reason why the few people that want Ange out, and I do think it is a minority, a very vocal minority, but still there's not too many that do. I think the reason that they're annoyed is that they don't see a willingness to really change the things that they see as weaknesses. Like if you're losing, then and you think you can see why, then you would try to maybe do something about that. And it feels as if like Ange is all, well, look, we lost because we didn't score more than them, which is true, but it's also like, it's kind of the type of thing that Michael Owen would come out with in punditry. Like it's not going to, if you score more goals than the opposition, then you'll win games. Well, yes, but you won't lose a game if you don't concede.
Right.
And I think that's the thing. Like it's all well and good to score lots of goals, but I still believe, and again, you talk about NFL phrases like defense wins championships. It's the same idea that really, if you want to be at the top of the table, you have to stop teams from scoring. There aren't many cases in world football where you win games 5-4 every week as you go on to be champions, because chances are you'll come across a better team with a better defense, and you can't score those 5 goals that you would need. So it's frustrating because it feels very similar to the squad idea that like Ange is really good at some things, but there's always that one bit missing that you think is quite obvious. And the squad, like we've done a great job rejuvenating the squad, and it's much younger, but that's what it is. It's younger. We don't know if it's better, and we don't have the numbers to, let's say 1 or 2 of those signings don't pan out. If you had other players, you could handle that. Right now, it's very much they have to deliver. And so that's the frustrating thing. It's not that we're playing badly, because we're not. Like losing games is frustrating, but we can, I think, see that Spurs are getting better at what we're trying to do. The problem being is that the things that we aren't very good at, we don't seem to be trying to strengthen defensively. And so for those people that do want Ange out, I think it's quite obvious what they're focusing on. Like, if you need to score 3 goals to win a game, there aren't many teams that can guarantee 3 goals in a game. Doesn't matter how attacking they are.
Yeah,
it's impossible to really rely on that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and that's why I think the Newcastle game sent people over the edge, is because it was 2 goals against the run of the game, and they converted, and yet we only could get an own goal. So my feeling is that one is our wingers, our forward line still isn't good enough. I think everyone can agree that they're not producing high enough clinically, I guess would be the way to say it. And then if we're going to give up these sorts of counter goals, we got to figure out how to stop that. And I know we've talked a lot about whether we should really be only playing one inverted fullback as opposed to two, because then you at least have a lot more cover. Or do you go to a back three? Those are all going to be great talking points in the pub, but it's not going to be anything that Ange is going to consider. So the question is whether or not these guys can learn their shape and their pressing triggers, which I see, again, so many instances of players not moving in unison in the press. Now that we did it the entire game at Newcastle. I mean, the number of turnovers in the final third, or in their defensive third, were I don't know the number. It was a lot, and we should have capitalized on some of them. But then Madison has one, pressing trigger that he maybe misreads and gets beat by Joelinton too easily, which pulls. I guess that's Basuma pulls away because he's worried about the run of Tonali. Romero steps up with the other three dropping. That's just uncoordinated. Those 5-6 players are not coordinated in their movement, and that's the way they're frustrating. But it is still very early, so I suspect by the end of the season, unlike last year, we'll be playing far better, more consistently, and giving up far fewer goals. That's my belief, but it's based on hope and faith, I think, more than the evidence so far.
I mean, for me, as I say, I think it's just too early, and you've got to give Ange some time. I'm not feeling it, if I'm being really honest, this season. I'm not brimming with optimism, because what I wanted us to do in the transfer window was go out and buy, as I'm sure probably most people did, a top winger, and we bought Odegaard. Now he's a good prospect, but he's not the finished article. If we'd have bought Neto, and I know people have concerns about his injury record, that would have been a statement of intent, a top-class player who can unlock defences. And it just seemed to me that away at Newcastle and Leicester, we lack quality in the final third. And I don't think it's necessarily about having a number 9, because we didn't create lots of chances against Newcastle. We didn't. The wingers cut inside. They've got to beat a man and get down the outside and pull it back or put it over, and that's Ange ball at its best. But we can't do that.
It's interesting. Like if you think about the fact, the 10 outfield players, and with Spurs, it's almost like you have a front 5 and a back 5, right? And the back 5 would be the 2 centre halves, the defensive midfielder, and the fullbacks. And he hasn't tweaked that, right? Really at all. Like he's played the players that he's got, but he hasn't tweaked that since he came in. And yet when it comes to the front 5, we've seen, even this season, we've seen him play with like 2 more attacking 8s with Madison next to Kulusevski, and wingers too. Like he's got more attacking options, so he's able to do that this year, but it's not the same Bissouma or Bentancur plus Sarr, right? Like the midfield 3 has been more attacking this season, certainly in the last 2 games. So the tweaks are there, and I think that Ange would say that, he tweaks quite a bit. But it's what we do and for which games. And if I think we've seen that a front 5 with 2 attacking 8s actually suits us better. We can overwhelm teams. We overwhelmed Newcastle. We just didn't do anything with it.
Yeah,
we overwhelmed Everton, and we did. And we the first goal obviously was a perfect example of Ange ball this season, where it came from a shot from distance. And the second goal, which is what really gave us confidence, was Pickford messing up. It wasn't Spurs. Right, so it was pressure from Son, but it was still Pickford messing up is the major part of that. So Spurs still have a lot to deliver, but you just hope that simple tweak that has made us look more effective maybe can happen on the other side of the ball, where we need to change things up a little, because we do still seem a bit brittle.
It'd be interesting to see what happens with the Arsenal game, because obviously it's going to be a blood and thunder derby, I would imagine. I wonder what side he's going to pick. And I can't wait to see a number 9 actually in the team, because I believe Solanke will be available. I'm not sure about Richarlison. He said he's weeks off, quote. Andy's sign has been horrific. And
I don't understand this at all. I mean, first of all, let's just be clear. We don't know what good signings are until they played at least a year or 2. We all thought the 2019, well, I did, and many people thought the 2019 window was amazing. It turned out to be total crap.
I'm going to come over the back of this in a minute, by the way.
And so, yes, we are all questioning 50 million dropped on Brennan Johnson. Almost said Boris. Brennan Johnson. So, I mean, it's absolutely, I totally get that. But you're not telling me that, no, you can't tell me that Berval is a terrible signing, Gray's a terrible signing, that permanently signing Kulusevski's a terrible signing, that Vicario is not really a signing from Ange. But I mean, there are plenty of, and you don't know about Solanke. While he was manager, but I mean, that might have been as much from our previous director of football than anything. But I mean, the point is that I don't understand the sentiment that they're crap. First of all, you don't know because they haven't played long enough. And number two, I think there are a lot of great signings. Whether or not they're going to get you any trophies this season is pretty remote, maybe, but that just doesn't make sense. These comments just don't make sense to me. That's my feeling.
No,
Van de Ven.
I can see it and I can't. I think it's a generalization, isn't it? Van de Ven obviously is a fantastic signing. Dragoshin looks okay. Where I take issue and where I agree with Stuart to a degree is I think monkeying 65 million on Solanke is questionable. I think spending 50 million on Brennan Johnson is horrific. I think signing Werner on loan is appalling, as I know HG would 100% agree with me. And I think Archie Gray is an opportunistic signing because he was on our list and someone else moved for him, so we had to move for him. But it doesn't improve the first 11.
No, but to say they're horrific is an ignorant comment, in my opinion. Some have been bad, but they're not. The 370 million has not been wasted. We don't know.
The attacking signings have been bad.
We don't know about Solanke. I think he's going to be quite good.
I know you do. You're a big backer.
I think the Odegaard signing, given what this ownership gives us, was a smart one potentially, but we don't know. It could turn out to be French Timo for all we know.
To be honest, reeks of Bergwijn or Aaron Lennon. HG, 370 million pounds spent. Your view, has he wasted a lot of it?
Well, yeah, on certain players, the ones that Jack named, yes, probably. There's been some wastage. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever going to get 100% right. No. I'd like to think they could. I'd like to think it's possible to get 100% signings right. I mean, we've seen teams improve by getting, 90, 95%. If you're only missing one out of every 3 years, you will get a lot better. And that's the thing with Spurs, is not only are we probably missing more often than we need to, we're spending a lot of money on those signings that aren't hitting. So it's the double whammy in that respect. But I think with Solanke, it's going to be about the teams that he's playing against. I don't see him as a player that fits a high press in the fact that we want to dominate possession. Bournemouth played a high press quite a lot, but they weren't great at it. And so they were often playing on the counter a bit, or they were asking Solanke to kind of hold the ball up and get players involved, which he's great at. I just don't know how many games Spurs are going to have against teams that do that. That's my concern. It's not that he's a bad player. It's just that will he be as good for Spurs? And a lot of that is down to how we play. But yeah, maybe against a confident Coventry, he'll score a hat-trick and that will be it. He'll be off. Because you're right, Cole. If Coventry play the way they can, they will push Spurs and they will attack Spurs, and that might be exactly what Solanke would need. But it does feel again that we're hoping that they're going to be good. But let's say this time last year we're top of the league.
Solanke will play against Coventry.
No, but what I'm saying is this time last year we're top of the league, and we're thinking that all of our players last summer were great, and not everyone feels that way about Maddison anymore. Not everyone feels that way about the players we signed anymore. Things have changed. So Jack's right that we don't know, but I will always defend the fact that people will sit here and say, well, from what I've seen, I don't think they're going to be good enough, right? Some people will say that Odegaard at 19 is one for the future, which is absolutely true, and that we don't really need another one for the future right now, which is probably true. But I like Odegaard, and I think he's going to be a good signing for Spurs, and I think he's an improvement on what we've got. Is he the finished article? No. And if you're a fan of Spurs that want the finished article, then clearly that's not going to happen, right? We are going to buy young players. We want to attract the best young players in Europe. I think that the club has been pretty clear about that now. We're not going to go out and buy top players in their prime. We're not going to go out and spend 60 million and 200 grand a week for 6 years like we did on Ndombele. We want to become rich Brighton is what we want. Now, whether that's the right attitude, I don't think it is, but that's clearly what the club seems to want to do. And for that to happen, then we will continue buying 18, 19, 20-year-olds and hope that they groove into a team.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Is Vicario getting a bad rep, you two? Because when he started out at Spurs, it could seem like he could do no wrong. I remember everyone wanted us to sign the goon number
Raya.
1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we signed Vicario, and Raya made a few mistakes, and Vicario played very well, and everyone was raving. We've got the better deal. What a smart signing! Why would we want Raya?
Mm-hmm.
And now I see, because he's been crowded out by corners a few times, that he's like an average keeper, or he's a mistake, or as Emma is saying, he's Mr. Flappy Bird on corners. But actually, I don't think he's been bad at all this season on corners.
Well, guess what?
I think
Do you know why?
Teams
They changed the rules, or they said they were going to.
I've lost you, Jack.
Of course, the obstruction rules on goalkeepers. There's no longer putting one guy in front, one behind. So now he's got room to operate. It makes a difference.
Well, it does make a difference, but I think if you put 2 players on any keeper in the league, they're going to flap like a bird, to be perfectly honest, if they rough him up. I think it's just a tactical target. I think the criticism was unwarranted. I think he's a good player.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Like, if Kohler is a tall 6'1", like you don't expect him, like Vicario is what, 6'2", 6'3", but he doesn't play like that. He doesn't command his area in that way. And so people want to take advantage. And he does kind of exude that look of like, oh no, here we go again, which means the fans kind of think that, oh, here we go again. I don't think he's a bad keeper at all. I don't think he's any worse than Raya. I'm not sure he's any better than Raya either, but that's okay. I'm content with Vicario. I don't.
Pretty high bar.
I don't see him as a weak link. I just think
but we do need to invest there.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. Like, if you want to get a backup, it's like, weirdly, goalkeeper is the only position where it really is backup. Like, you almost have to have a number 1. The clubs that, even Arsenal did it with Raya and Ramsdale. Very quickly, it became number 1 and number 2. And I think Palace have gone through the same thing with their 2. Like, they very quickly, like once the manager decides there's a 1, then the number 2 has to get out. It's very difficult to find a good number 2, because let's face it, a good number 2 is experienced and probably homegrown and probably content to sit on 60 grand a week to be that backup. And I don't think there are too many keepers like that. Like, if you're really good, you want to play. Yeah, it's a very. I don't know what point keepers think, you know what, right now the best I can do is second choice at Spurs. So like, it won't be easy to find someone who thinks that they can challenge or is happy with that role. But I don't think Spurs are looking to move on from Vicario. And if that's the case, you are only going to be a backup.
How much is Forster on, Jack?
Sorry, repeat that.
How much is Forster on?
I must be losing. What are you saying to me?
How much is Fraser Forster on?
Oh, I have no idea.
I do. £75,000 a week. If that ain't the best job in football, tell me I'm wrong. I tell you.
I would say it's only surpassed by the 3rd goalkeeper, because now you'll never play. Yes, you're making less money, but you're never going to be put in that position where there are 60,000 people blaming you for a loss. So that's 3rd choice would be my best position.
It's a lot of money, but Forster knows that the market for a goalkeeper like him, with lots of Premier League experience, lots of European experience because of Celtic, right? He's 36, 37 now, but so at 35, he's thinking, right, I'm looking for my retirement deal. I want to be someone's second choice keeper, someone's third choice keeper for the next, 6-7 years. I could do that. And because he's got the homegrown status, he will ask for good money. That's the thing.
I've got to throw this up HG because I love a bit of barracking of you normally. There you go.
He clearly explains the process. The big players come last. What did I say that was different to that? Did I talk
That we're
about
never going to sign the big players? Maybe I'm not really sure.
Yeah, maybe. But like, I mean, Spurs are right now. We're looking to build a team. Like big players come last. So once you've built like 90%, then what? So Havertz is Arsenal's big player. I mean, I guess they spent a lot of money on him.
They did,
I mean,
and they also, Rice, Havertz,
Rice is the good
Marino
example.
Yeah.
Who's now out till October because Gabriel fell on him or something.
And it's all well and good. I mean, like Arsenal spent money, Spurs have spent money, but the players they bought well, we haven't. I mean, that's what it's come down to. Like for 2 or 3 years, Arsenal made one mistake with Fabio Vieira. That was 30 million that hasn't really panned out for them. You could say the same maybe about Gabriel Jesus, hasn't really panned out for them. But the years before that, with Odegaard and Ben White and the other Saliba and the other defender who I can't stand,
Tomiyasu.
Tomiyasu?
No, not so much. Tomiyasu I don't mind, but like they have managed to buy well. Martinelli was a find, right? But like, have they really gone over the edge by buying Rice? Like, he helped them. They were better last season. I guess points wise, I think they were better last season. They certainly looked more like a title winning team last year because they weren't as good as they were the season before, but they seemed to get results much more than they did the season before. But for Spurs, like, I mean, if Solanke's not a big player at 65 million quid, what is he? Right? Like, I mean, we're spending money. Like, I would have rather had 2 30 million players, the 160 million player, because I felt like Spurs needed that. But when you do that, you've got to get them right. And there's no, like, I guess there's
personally, I'd
no
rather have had Ivan Toney.
Sorry?
I'd rather have had Ivan Toney.
Yeah, maybe you would have. Like, I mean, we wouldn't have paid anywhere near the wages he wanted. And that's the thing. Like, Spurs are buying young because, we can give them 40, 50 grand a week and they already feel like they've won the lottery.
Buttons.
But it's much better than giving 100, 150 grand a week to play for people who you're still hoping. Like, Spurs want, I guess we almost want to create 10 years ago. We want to go back where we had a young team that grew together, that got new contracts as they got better. I just think that that was fine when we didn't have a massive stadium behind us, but now we do. It feels a bit like we could be doing a bit more than just trying to recreate, Pochettino's time.
Well, it's that time where we set our sights on Premier League predictions. Interestingly, they chose Maddison for that graphic. Not sure his hair was on point that day. Who's going to be the top goal scorer in the Premier League this season? Haaland. Next. Relegation odds. Do you see any of these bottom 3 teams surviving? Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton? HG.
I mean, yeah, you look at those, like you do think that the 4 or 5 teams at the bottom, because they've got Premier League experience, will end up doing better. Do any of those top 3 teams have a real goal scorer? Ones that you think could get them the goals they need? Yeah, I mean, Vardy's what, 30? Was he 38 now? Yeah, I mean, but that's what it's
still got it though. Still got it.
Scoring against Spurs is not everything. I just,
especially unmarked.
I don't think Southampton will have the goals that they might need. It's about winning those games against the teams around them. Southampton have already lost a few. I don't think they've lost every game. And certainly, maybe one of those was against the team around them. I'd like to think that Ipswich have a good shot. But you think Leicester probably have the best set of players to do it because quite a few of them were in the Premier League 2 years ago. I know they went down, but still, like, they're decent players. But yeah, you look at that and you can't really go far away from the top of those first 3 listed.
Any disagreement, Jack? Or you? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think obviously there's a reason why the promoted teams are always the favorites to go back down. That's clear. I think that Ipswich spent a lot of money. So I agree with HG that they would be my pick to stay up. Leicester is not a bad shout, only in the sense that they have the dynamic duo of Winks and Skip in the engine room. I would say that for me,
you leave my boy alone.
Wolves, I think, they have enough goal scoring threat, even losing Neto. I worry about them, how many they're going to concede, because I think they put in some kid replacer Kilman. So I mean, Wolves but they've got a good coach. I think Everton's the one I question the most. Fulham has no chance going down. Neither is Brentford or Forest. I think all three of those are safe. I question a little bit of Wolves just because they lost some key pieces, but I still think they have enough talent up front. Cunha alone, I think, is a good player. So Everton is the one I worry the most about of the non-promoted teams for obvious reasons. They couldn't invest in the squad. They are already off to a horrible start. The ownership situation's a mess, and it may take them getting relegated before someone comes in and wants to bail them out from a financial standpoint, because ownership still wants way too much money, it seems like. They've got a great stadium going that may end up being in the championship next year, because even with Dyche, I mean, they will stay up only because of their manager. That's the only reason that team should stay up, is because they can't score.
Don't have to roll my Dyche impression out again, do I?
Well, you're welcome to. Now, Branthwaite comes back into that squad, and they're better defensively, but I still say, for me, Everton's the only one there, other than the promoted teams, that has got a real danger of going down, and that's where they've been for the last 2 years.
He just sounds like he smokes 100 a day. Right? Oh, we're going to get relegated. Anyway, for me, Ipswich will stay up. Leicester will scrape. Now they've got evaded their points deduction, the sneaky foxes. God knows how. They might stay up. Everton, I think, will go down. And I'm going to call it now. My dad won't be happy, but I think Wolves are going to get relegated. He would say that's exactly what they deserve, actually, because he gave up his season ticket. He's so disgusted with the owners. But I do think that Wolves have left themselves so wide open to being relegated. And now I think Gary Neal's a very good coach. But I do worry about them.
All right, so let's all call our three. This is a prediction show. We are on the record.
Prediction show. Yep, go.
So my relegated are Southampton, Leicester, and Everton.
Okay. I would take the top three on there. Like, as much as I like Ipswich, and I think I want them to stay up, I wanted Luton to stay up, and they didn't.
Yeah.
I don't see a
great.
Am I
Luton this season?
Yeah, exactly. And so, I'd have to. I mean, I think Leicester probably have the better chance, but I'd still pick Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton. I'm not as down on Everton as you guys are. I know they were bad, and they have been bad the first three games of the season. But, they I mean, it sounds crazy, but they were 2-0 up against Bournemouth, and they played really well to get there. The fact that the last 10 minutes went against them, they do have
mainly due to Dyche's substitutions.
Yeah, but they do. I think they do have what's needed to get the wins they will need. Like, if they can do it when they have an 8-point deduction or whatever it was at the end of whatever they ended up with at the end of the last season, they still stayed up. If they can do that again, I think their squad is probably around the same. I don't think Onana is the massive miss that people think he is. And Onana, yeah, Amadou.
Onana. Never mind. Leicester, for me, Everton, Southampton, and Wolves. Just to be controversial, I think Ipswich and Leicester will struggle. Yeah. Call it in Dyche voice. Dyche. I've had a few beers. Dyche voice saying Everton are safe. We're going to be safe. There you go. Most improved player in the Premier League this season. I mean, let's go for Spurs.
I thought it was Spurs. I prepared it for Spurs. Let's do
it. So hit me with it then, Jack, because me and HG, I can tell by the look on his face, he's not prepared either for this.
Right. So
I'm thinking, yeah.
So, well, here's the thing. I look at it this way. When you're looking for who it could be, first of all, look for your most crap players, right? So, So Werner's in the mix.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's likely. I mean, if any of the ones who are currently getting the most grief, and that would be Brennan, he actually has the potential to be the most improved because he's got the farthest to go. He's starting at such a low bar that he could. So, but I would say for me,
Um,
Let us know in the chat who your most improved player this season is going to be. Spurs.
For me, it's down to either Spence or Basuma, because Spence, who was out of the squad completely, has all of a sudden gotten an opportunity. And if there's an injury, let's say Porro misses some games, or we stay alive in competitions long enough for him to get a lot of minutes, he has the attributes to play well. So I think he could come from a player that we're actually trying to get rid of to someone who's actually a meaningful part of the squad. So I would say he's a good shout. And then Basuma, who, we all can see the talent and the ability is there. I think it's more between the ears than it is anywhere else. And if he can get that straight and stay healthy and stay unsuspended, then I think he's got, and so he's my vote for our most improved player over Basuma.
HG. See, I have the benefit of going last here.
Okay. You're right. You pick someone who didn't do that well last season, and we think was going to get better. Like, I can see all the comments from people saying it's going to be Johnson. It's going to be Johnson. Like 6 months ago, everyone was telling me he wasn't that bad, and now suddenly he's going to be the most improved player. Like, I'm sorry, I can't have that. So, like, I don't think I expect him to be better than he was, but I don't really see that as being a challenge. So I will go. Because I don't think he was very good last season at all. I will go for Maddison.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he
was. Actually, I'll go for Kulusevski because people didn't like him last season either.
Yeah, he was on my list. I didn't mention him.
That was going to be mine.
Oh, really? Okay, well then fine. I'll stick with Maddison. Like, I don't think the system is really designed for him, but again, a couple of tweaks and it's there, right? So. Maddison could easily become a very important player for us, but he just needs to stay closer to the opposition goal.
I'll let you into a secret. My Premier League dream team, I believed in the player, and then he declared himself injured. Richarlison. I put Richarlison in my dream team. The week we were going to face Everton because I thought, he's fit. He's just come back from injury. He'll be firing. It's against his old team. Richarlison. Yeah, why not? Who needs Haaland up front? We could have Richarlison. Big mistake. So he's not going to be the most improved at all. So I will go for Kulusevski, who was the person I had him on mind. I thought he had a disappointing season last year. I think Ange has figured him out a little bit and how to get the best out of him, and that is playing him in that number 8 role, and even in the forward role where he seems to be filling in left, right, and centre. But I, dead impressed with him away to Newcastle. I thought he was excellent second half, and I think that I'm for Kulu. A lot of people were saying waste of money. I still remember the season he signed under Conte. He was transformative to that team. Excellent player, cut in, scored loads of goals. And then last season, we didn't really see it. I don't think Ange had worked him out, if I'm being really honest, because Ange is thinking, well, where does he fit? I only play speedsters on the right wing, and he's not a speedster, but he's a very good technical player. And I think he's figured it out. I think he plays him through the middle. And I think he'll have a big, big part to play this season. And for that reason, Kulusevski is my man. Who's going to be Solomon on loan while loan at Leeds will tear it up? He's already got an assist. Not that means anything. Player of the year, Tottenham Hotspur. Player of the year. Let us know in the chat who's going to be the player of the year. Now, is this the John who put this slide deck together today? Is this the player of the year voted for by the fans? Because if it is, our South Korean army normally just whitewash it and it's Son. Or is it our player of the year? We'll go with our player of the year. Jack?
Yeah, I think so as well. So this one is, for me, is down to probably 3 players primarily. Madison is on an outside shot. I mean, all the people, Son could be there. Decky could be there. But for me, it's probably Van de Ven, Porro, or Dominic Solanke. And Solanke will get there, of course, if he ends up leading the line, staying healthy, and scoring 20 goals.
Fan.
Huh?
You're such a fanboy for Solanke.
I just said if he scores 20 goals leading the line.
No. I revert back to your previous. You were waxing lyrical about how he's going to fit Ange's system, and I go back into.
Oh no, that's true. I do think I think he's a good fit.
You are a believer.
I am. Yeah, I know that's no doubt about it. So I've got as a candidate, because I do think if he stays fit, and again, because he's always been fit somewhere else, that means he can't be fit for us. Then I do think he could be that player. But for me, the player of the season came down when I looked at it was between Porro and Van de Ven, and I decided I'm gonna take Porro.
Yeah, Porro. I think he's been electric so far this season, to be honest. But HG,
Do you want to take Van de Ven, caller? Because I don't. So you can have him if you want.
I wasn't going to pick Van de Ven because he's going to pull a hammy and be injured.
I'm going to pick a name that I was surprised Jack didn't mention. I think it will be Romero.
I thought you were going to say Brennan Johnson then.
Yeah, I mean, I know I made it obvious that was really where my thoughts were, but no, look, I think Romero is the best footballer on the team. I think he's the best centre back. I think he's probably the best midfielder if he really wanted to be. Just for the way he plays the game, and Spurs need that so much. Like he seems to have kind of tempered down the aggression a bit. He doesn't really get sent off. Doesn't really get bookings anymore. He's a world-class player, and so he frankly should win Player of the Year if he plays anywhere like the way he can.
Couple of candidates, 2 or 3 candidates to think about. Bentancur, I think he can have a transformative season. I liked what I saw at Leicester. I think obviously he missed the Newcastle game for the most part. I think he's our best midfielder, actually, HG. I don't think Romero would be the best midfielder. I think Bentancur, technically, is probably one of the best footballers at the club, if not the best.
Yeah, but he would be better if he had Romero's aggression.
He's quite aggressive, let's be fair.
He gets yellows. It's not really the same thing. I mean,
well, the team gets sent off every week, HG. But I hear you. I could say Maddison because he's a mate of a mate, and I should back him.
I think if we said that Maddison was rubbish, he's more likely to think, "Oh, I'm going to show you." That's who he is, right?
Oh, he's rubbish then.
Yeah.
Just in case you're watching Madders. But which is unlikely, although I have sent him a link for the show. You never know. My personal pick. Could we just see the Renaissance of Bentancur? I think we could. No, I agree with you. I think Bentancur, if you think back, he's the reason we'll be playing on Wednesday next season. Fantastic footballer, Rolls Royce of midfielder. And if he can recapture that form, then, absolutely we'll have an absolute hell of a player. But I'm going to go Pedro Porro because... number one, I think his name is exotic, and Pedro Porro. And I think that
that's important.
It's important.
That is the only reason that Messi was ever any good.
Absolutely,
it's because it was Lionel and not Lionel.
No, I always called him Lionel. But I think Porro is underrated by everyone else in the Premier League for some reason. I think you'll see he's going to score banging a few goals. He's already at one worldie this season. I think he never lets you down. He always gives 110%, albeit slightly frustrating at Leicester when he was limping around the pitch, piss-arsing around for about 10 minutes. But I love the way he moves into midfield. He's an accomplished footballer. His ball striking is a thing of beauty. Like, I don't think there's anyone better in the team or the Premier League who can hit a ball like he can.
Pedro Porro, as MS has said.
Pedro Poirot. I love it. Pedro
Porro.
Yeah.
I think Porro means spliff as well.
Even better.
Which is why I think that's why he has his full name on the back of his shirt.
Is that a fact?
I don't know if it's a fact, but there's no reason for him to have first and second name unless the second name would be a bit odd. And Porro does mean spliff, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much the only reason I picked him.
I love Pedro Porro. Next up, Premier League, Tottenham versus Arsenal. We're going to have a preview. I am going to enjoy that game. I'm going to milk that game. I'm going to be down at the stadium 3 hours early. I'm going to soak up every bit of atmosphere. It's my favourite fixture at home of the season. but absolutely I'll be shitting myself before it starts. And here are our upcoming fixtures. So we've got obviously Arsenal on the 15th. We're going to have an absolutely banging preview on that. So make sure you hit the like button and set notifications on, and you will get an alert for that. We're going to have a really good preview. We've got a really reasonable Gooner coming on as well, which will always be entertaining and fun. Cov away. Hopefully, I'll get a ticket for that. Looking forward to my local fixture. I hope we absolutely smash them as well, because nearly everyone's a Coventry fan at work. Brentford at home. I mean, and then Man United away, and then Brighton away in the Premier League. You know, it's a tough run of games, isn't it?
Yes.
It is. There you go. That's it. Is a man of few words.
Yeah, well,
Ange could be under pressure.
I mean, I think he will be, right? Because there's always a team. Like, if Man United don't turn things around, they will be the ones that kind of getting the music. But if they do win a couple of games, then they'll look to see which of the biggest teams are in trouble. And it could easily be Spurs. But I think, as we said earlier, I don't think there's anything to be gained really by switching, right? Like we've committed to what we want to do. We look at those fixtures, and we know they're not easy ones. So it's like at the end of last season, we lost those 4 games in a row. Well, we all knew they were 4 really difficult games, and had they been earlier in the season, then we probably wouldn't have started 8-2. Do you know what I mean? Like we'd have lost a couple of those games. So yes, that doesn't mean the easy games are coming around the corner, but we won't win too many of those. But we shouldn't really expect to. Like we are hopefully still improving.
All right, let's rush things along because we're going an hour and 30 minutes. I've still got loads to cover. So if you're enjoying the show, hit the like button, hit the notifications, and catch our next show. Thank you very much. Become a channel member. Why not? Jack.
Right. Yes, sir.
Your top 4 prediction, please.
Well, this is very simple because 3 of them we already know: City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. Yeah. So the election comes down to the last 4. Obviously, Spurs, Chelsea, Villa, Newcastle are candidates. My outside dark horse is Brighton. They did some really good business.
United, I thought you were going to say.
Nope. And it depends on how soon they fire Ten Hag. But I would say that Brighton's got an outside shot. And I would say because they don't have, obviously, the European fixtures this year, they are definitely in the mix right now, in my opinion, for top 4. But I've got to go with my optimism because that's the way I have to view life. Otherwise, it's no fun. So I'm picking Spurs to grab 4th, and Brighton to grab 5th, Chelsea to be 6th, and Villa to drop off, and Newcastle to probably be the 6th, 7th spot as well. So that's my top 4.
Fanciful. HG?
I mean, the top 3, I mean, Jack's right. Like, they're not switching. I mean, they might switch positions.
Correct, yeah.
Hopefully they don't in a certain way. But I think 4th, I don't look at any of those teams that Jack mentioned as, you know, possibles for the 4th and think, wow, they're like nailed on to do it. Like, everyone is so flawed in different ways. And I think Spurs' squad size is going to hamper us, right? I mean, even if we didn't have Europe, I'd still be a bit worried. But the fact that we do, I really am. So I think logically, like I picked Spurs for 5th last year because we didn't have Europe. And so I think Newcastle will be the ones to get 4th because they won't have Europe. And if they can keep their best 11 fit, they've got a very good side. Like, maybe they're not as good as they were 2 years ago, but that still might be enough.
I'm going to say that top 3, as we know. 4th, Villa. I think they've got momentum. I think Emery's a fantastic manager, and I don't see Europe hampering them. I really don't. I think they've got the momentum now, and I think they will be better than they were last season. I genuinely do. In terms of 5th, 6th, you flip a coin. I think we're in there. I think United will be in there because they just have a way. I think that Newcastle are resurgent, but I don't know what it is. I don't see them being higher than like 7th. We'll see. You're right. It is a minefield. It's going to be interesting. If I was picking Well, we'll come on to the Spurs in a minute. Premier League champions. I'll go first. Man City, job done. HG.
Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Ooh, really? You two think Liverpool?
I think
they have the best front six in the league. I think they're actually better than City's front six, and I think they'll get the business done in January to strengthen, and they will win. There are a lot of players on their last season there. They're going to want to go out. I don't think they're going to put energy in the Champions League.
Unbearable.
Yeah, I agree with everything Jack said, but Liverpool, I don't think City will be as good. I don't think Arsenal will be as good, and that leaves it open for one team to come through. Liverpool won't have to be 100-point winners to do it, but
I mean, if Slot does that in his first season, that is a monumental triumph.
It is.
I mean, it is, but it's also down to the fact that he's inherited a pretty good squad. He's not changed much about what they do. Like Liverpool had a brand new midfield last year. They've had a year now to kind of develop and play together. And that front six, if you can win, in the sense that they're all goal scorers. Even Darwin Núñez will win you 2 games a season that you don't expect to win. Like he comes good. So, yeah, I just think if there's a surprise winner, it will be Liverpool.
So where do you think Spurs are going to finish then? Let us know in the chat. This is your moment. This is your time to shine. Drop us a comment. We'll try and get through them all. Where are Spurs going to finish? HG.
In a chat group recently, I said 6th. I am tempted to go a bit higher because of how we've played. But I think I will stick with 6th. I think that it sounds awful, but Man United has shown to win big games when they need to. Like they've lost terribly. I have a feeling that if there's going to be a team that pips us to that, it might be them. But I'll stick with 6th for Spurs. Like it will be
forget,
like
5th could get Champions League this season.
Yeah, exactly. But 5th will if Spurs are 5th, we won't get Champions League. That's the rule, right? England will do terribly in Europe, and so 5th won't get it. So to me, it's
a bit like the season Redknapp got us to 4th, and we didn't get
pretty much
exactly. Yeah.
So
in fact, I thought it was Section 302A(c) that says if Spurs are in 5th, then it goes to Italy. I think that's actually in the UEFA rules. But
Jack,
well, in the Patreon chat for the Cheese Room Pick'em thing, this is beginning of the year. I mean, before the season started, I picked Spurs 3rd. I am now I see how good Liverpool looks as they say. One of the things I think the tweaks that Slot has done is that he slowed them down a little bit, which I think is going to be good for the aging players. They won't quite be they won't be working as hard, I think. And how they play, they're going to be slower and their build up a little bit more possession based. So I think that'll help them. So I didn't think that it would work out as well for them as it seems like it might. So I've had to jump Liverpool up to 1st, City down to 2nd, Arsenal to 3rd, and Tottenham to 4th. That's just because, again, I have to be optimistic, even though I know they could finish 8th.
I mean, I'm just looking in the chat. There's people saying 5th, 6th, 1st, couple of firsts. A couple of winning the leagues. 3rd. For me,
I got to put it up.
I mean, last year I picked us at 4th, and I was 1 place out. I'm going to pick us at 5th. Miss out on the Champions League, obviously, and be 1 place out and probably finish 6th. I don't think you're off the mark. I think that's where we are. I think if you look at the wage budget, that's more or less where we are, 6th. And I think that's more or less where we'll finish, despite having a magnificent trident of Solanke, Johnson, and Son. I just can't see.
You were going to say Werner. I thought you were going to say Werner.
I could have
done.
Kind
of disappointed you didn't.
I could have done. I missed opportunity. Bit like Werner. Boom, boom. I just think that we're not quite there yet. It's frustrating. The Premier League's probably better than it's been in years in terms of competitiveness, and we're just not improving. If we wanted to finish 4th, 3rd, I was expecting a new DM, because I know a lot of people have said Basuma is going to be the most improved player, but I don't trust him, and there's a reasonable reason for that. He smokes balloons on Snapchat in his spare time, and in terms of wingers, they're just not good enough for Ange Ball. They're just not good enough. And we're not going to score enough goals. And we're going to concede too many goals. And I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. We'll steamroller the Evertons, the Southamptons, the Ipswiches. All the rest of it will be the best of the rest. But I don't see us finishing fourth or higher.
Can I ask a question?
Mm.
If we didn't have Europe, but we still had the squad that we had, or that we have, would you kind of think we'd make fourth then? No, see, that's it. Like, because I kind of agree with you. I still don't think we'd make fourth, even if we took those fixtures away. So
not good enough. Not good enough.
No.
And it's sad, but we just haven't reinforced the first 11 enough. It's a waste. It's another Daniel Levy wasted opportunity in the window.
Right, let's go with this question quickly. Now, I'm assuming he means for Spurs.
Werner, Johnson, and Richarlison. Or
quite.
Or Son. And I'm losing patience with Son, if I'm being brutally honest, because I know he's scored a couple of goals, but I think he's been pretty poor. It's because I saw him at Leicester and he nearly tripped over the ball about 3 times, and it was painful to watch. But you got to put him in there. Son, Solanke, flip a coin. I don't think he's much better than Richarlison. I really don't. And then on the right, oh my gosh, it's Hobson's choice. Kulusevski, maybe.
After you just said he's much better through the middle. And
he is much better through the middle, but you look at our right wing options: Brendan Johnson, Werner, or Odegaard. And Odegaard and Werner are left-footed.
Right. I think that is the problem. I actually don't know what our best 3 is. I mean, I know it's a good question, but I don't. I mean, I know 2. Son and Solanke are right now, but I have the same problem with right wing, and as a result,
because we didn't sign one. Because
I'm well aware.
We should have signed Neto. We should have signed Neto.
You think he wouldn't do his hammy in the first game for us?
Yeah, Chelsea.
Because he doesn't have a Spurs kit on.
All right, look, I'll pick my front 3. I'm going to be slightly cheating.
Richarlison missed 15 games in 4 years for Everton.
Yeah, and 15 games in first 20 for Spurs. I think our best front 3 is Son down the left, Richarlison down the middle, and Pedro Porro down the right. I think that's our best front 3.
Wow.
Right? I really do.
Well, I'm going to go for elite while you justify that statement.
Okay.
I mean, you and I have been talking about this, that just throw in Archie Gray or Spence at right back and put Porro at right wing. We've talked about that in our group chat for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we both agree. That's not going to happen, but I agree. He's probably the best right winger at the club that doesn't even ever play there.
We need quality delivery from a wing. Otherwise, what's the point? If they're just going to stand there and kick it inside to someone else, then you're basically an 8-man team. Like, I like Odegaard. I think Odegaard was the one that I would want to try and sneak in somehow.
Yeah, but I don't know on the right.
Yeah, exactly. I think Pedro Porro is the best winger at the club.
Yeah.
Full stop, really.
Hell, maybe for all I know, Jed Spence could play it. I haven't seen enough of him, but I mean, he's tall. He moves the ball quickly. He can take on a man, and he can. And I don't know what I was crossing because I haven't seen it. But I mean, both those guys may be our best right winger.
Yeah, it's sad, but like.
And then Johnson coming off the bench. You could always drop Porro back and bring Johnson in off the bench and run a tired. Yeah, I know.
No, I mean, this is it. Like, I feel like our best 11 has a lot of players in it that we would pick. Where I just move them around a little bit, right? So, like, if we're going to play, the back 4 that we tend to do, where the fullbacks invert, then I'd be happy to have someone like Romero be the one who inverts, because we know he can tackle. So but the thing is, I feel like Ange wants his fullbacks to create, and I don't want them to do that. So that's why I would put Porro somewhere else. I don't want him playing in the middle. I want him playing down the side. So it's a very similar 11 when it comes to names than I think that Ange would pick. I just rejig it a little bit. I really would. I think that we have to do something. But I don't. We talk about those 6 strikers for Liverpool, which is kind of what every club kind of wants to have that sort of depth. Like Núñez is the battering ram that really can't do much else, but he will get you points by doing that. But the other 5, they are very, very good at what they do, right? And I think that a lot of them, if not all of them, are smarter than the front players we have. And I think that if you're playing a somewhat complicated attacking game, you have to have people who can think. And I just don't look at Spurs' front 6 and think they're all instinct players.
Yeah,
like I don't trust them.
There's not a Jota in that who, if he stays healthy, that's the reason why I think Liverpool can win it, because he is unbelievable. I mean, the awareness and the football IQ is off the charts, and we don't have that player.
No, and I think that's the thing.
Although Bergvall could be it.
Yeah, he's the closest for sure. Like Bergvall is the one player. But I mean, like I said, Romero, Porro are the same, but Bergvall, when he's on the pitch, it's like you are playing my game. Right? This is what I feel I'm going to do. And that's what the best players have. Like, I'm so excited to see him play for Spurs because I think it will be an improvement on the first team.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand why it hasn't happened yet, because he's 18 and a half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but
by the end of the year, I think he starts by Christmas.
Yeah. He'll get his run at Coventry, won't he?
Yeah, he will.
And
I hope so.
What he can do.
Yeah.
Because he should be tearing the team in the Championship to pieces.
So
we'll see.
Agreed. All right.
Hey, look, this is true. Sorry, just where is it? What King put? Like, that's what I said, right? And it's true. There is 0 chance of it ever happening. But if you wanted to know what I think would be a front 3 that actually works, those would be the 3.
We shall see. We shall see. Ange's changeable. Look, I want to thank you for joining me this evening. If you're watching, please do subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitter at It's Tottenham HG. Very much, thank you very much for joining us this evening from Austria and giving us your wit and insights.
No problem. Hopefully the next time I'm on, it won't be 30 degrees. I am done with the heat right now. But
never thought I'd hear you moan about the weather.
No, I'm not moaning about it. I just would like to see a bit of a change. Like, it's been constant now, like for weeks on end. I need some rain in my life.
Come to England, we've got loads of it. And Jack, as ever, it's a pleasure to see your chiseled face on my screen. And I hear you're playing football this week yourself.
I have yes, on Saturday at noon. I have a match. So yep.
See, all that makes me do is picture Jack in an Arsenal top, and it just, my heart sinks every time.
You had to bring that up on the show.
I wouldn't have done it, mate. I don't care if they've picked a nice new kit. You can't wear a Guna kit for fun. You just can't do it.
It's true. You can't.
Yeah, I mean, the black tape over the badge doesn't help. I understand.
Did you do that? Did you do
that?
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, then fair enough. Okay, fine. I didn't know that you'd done
different standards.
Then I fully respect it. I could not bring myself to wear anything.
In the heat, though, it would sometimes fall off because of the sweat, but it would start there.
Just sew like a black patch over it or something.
I should have done that. You're right. If I could sew.
Big black marker pen, maybe, ruin the shirt forever.
Well, it wasn't mine. I had to give it back to the captain at the end of the season.
Okay.
Well, exactly. Even more reason to ruin it. Look, thanks for watching. We'll be back Monday, Friday next week. We're going to try and do a few shorts as well. It's been a pleasure to have you watching us as ever. And in the meantime, forget everything we just said. Be optimistic about Spurs. Be upbeat. Get behind the team. Enjoy the international break. It's the Goon Fest next. I'll be there. And we'll have a great show lined up for you that Friday. So in the meantime, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you